I think it's just a very exciting time, to be honest. I think that, definitely COVID, albeit it's not been a great situation for, millions of people out there, but it has definitely accelerated digital transformation. And so how we move forward from this, the new normal, the new way of doing things, I think there's a massive amount of opportunity here from an AI perspective, from an automation perspective.
Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host Chandni, and today you folks are in for a treat. We have an AI expert with us on the show today. But before I introduce you to our guest, allow me to introduce you to the magic of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code digital CX platform available across 14 channels with 45,000 solutions created across 187 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 4 lakh visitors annually. And now, for our guest, Shnay Chohan is the Senior AI Product Manager of Digital Technology at NatWest Group, a business that understands that when customers and people succeed, communities succeed, and the economy thrives. Their purpose is to drive change for communities in the enterprise, learning, and climate. Shinai's commitment to organizational performance and the team members' personal development simultaneously establishes him as both an experienced leader and manager and his experience from customer journey manager to product manager has shaped the way he approaches the conversation design. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Shinai.
My pleasure. Thanks, Chandani. That was a great introduction.
Thank you. But before we dive into our interview with Shinai, don't forget to subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon below to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders from around the globe. So, beginning with the interview, Shinai, how do you think has AI impacted the way the financial services industry serves the economy?
Yeah, so I think it's impacted it quite significantly, really. So if you think about it, it feels almost like the next level of industrial revolution to some extent. So, what the key focus is now is a lot around automation, robotics, and using AI to handle customer queries, but also colleague processes within the bank. And so this level of automation, I think, is definitely a significant trend. I think accelerated with COVID as well, but it's a huge trend that a lot of banks and financial services are going across. Financial, services, they're trying to repurpose themselves as tech companies to some extent, and given all the vast data that they have already, it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to really understand their customers. Obviously, there are architectural elements that they need to work through from a legacy perspective, but the difference from perhaps startups is that they're dealing with small amounts of data. We deal with significant amounts of data, and that gives us, I feel, a bit of an advantage to be able to then really try and create a great customer experience, and also really accelerate on the automation and AI elements. So I think it has had a huge impact. It will continue to have a greater impact, and I think that it is the next, in almost like industrial revolution for us, really, in the way of AI and robotics and automation.
Absolutely. And when you talk about industrial revolution, this time I think it's more of a digital industrial revolution than the one that we already had. Absolutely. So moving on to our next question, are the current financial regulations adequate for overseeing an AI-driven industry?
So I think the FCA is currently who we're regulated by, right? And I think there are elements within this. So, for example, they have a sandbox initiative which allows banks and financial services to really try and innovate in this space and do something different that perhaps might touch on the edge of regulation. So I think there is that space there. I think also the policy that's been put in around, open banking and PSD2 has really tried to accelerate innovation, particularly within Europe. Albeit we may not be in Europe for much longer, but that's really been a huge driver of innovation. And so I think the appetite is really there to help accelerate innovation and foster that, which is fantastic to see. And almost quite rare actually to see so much policy influencing and driving the change and innovation, which is great. I think for us at the moment, we're using AI from a machine learning perspective, but those are assisted machine learning models. So humans behind them being able to really help almost like a check on whether this is right for the customer, and always having that oversight is really important. So I think internal governance is equally as important. But I think there will be some more to come down the line in terms of some of those unassisted machine learning models, and how do we set ourselves up to be able to serve customers in the best way, but also have that governance and risk elements really in place, so that we don't see some of the mistakes that we may have seen from there's that famous Microsoft bot and things like this. So I do think there is appetite to innovate. I do think that the policy has helped us so far in the way of innovation for not just ourselves but financial services as a whole, and helped a lot of those startups as well, which has been great. But I think there is some way to go in terms of just how do we move more to machine learning models that are unsupervised? How do we really understand and have the right risk and governance in place to make sure that these things are having the right customer impact? So I think we're on a journey. I think it's been good so far, but there is still some way to go.
Absolutely, absolutely well said, Shnay. So, how do you think has COVID impacted digital transformation across the financial services industry?
I think this has been absolutely huge, really, when you think about it. I think it's transformed many industries. Financial services, obviously, I can talk to just given the experience that we've had it, but I think it has accelerated digital transformation significantly. Now, what was the thing that was perhaps hindering digital transformation? Or it was, I would say, the technology existed, but and there is absolutely a way to go with customer experience and making that even better, and slicker digital experiences. Absolutely, that would always be there. But you perhaps had some customers or people that didn't want to, didn't have the appetite to try some of these digital channels. And I really think COVID has, for good or for worse, forced that behaviour and given them no other choice. So, for example, if you're in a lockdown and your branch is closed, if you try and call up the telephony lines, you're waiting for a significant amount of time. Then where else do you go? Well, your option that is going to be the quickest and most convenient, but perhaps something that you haven't tried before is going to be a digital channel. Now, as from a chatbot perspective, we had that exact situation where we had a lockdown. We had customers who were financially struggling, and there was not really many places for them to turn because our branches were on shorter hours. We also had, COVID cases, and from an employee perspective, and our telephony lines were really had high queues. And so what we did is we put journeys live within kind of 48 hours of government announcements, payment holiday journeys, so mortgages, loans, credit cards, to help alleviate a bit of pressure from customers during this tough period, and give them payment holidays. Now, if that wasn't there, then there would have been a significant amount of queues, as mentioned, but also a lot of customers just wouldn't have been able to get the help that they received when they needed it most. And so I think this has been a real lifeline for them to some extent. And also, I think it's demonstrated how powerful the digital technology and capability is that we have as a bank, and how agile we are, how quickly we can move. Now, a significant amount of customers have gone through those journeys and received financial help and support, and that has really raised awareness of, okay, this is the power of what this technology can do for us. How can we use it further? And I think that's been absolutely crucial for us, and across the industry as well. But I think it's twofold. One is customer behavior has significantly shifted, and actually once they've tried these new services, they've realized actually they're quite good, and so therefore the stickiness of those channels have stayed there. And so, customer behavior has shifted, but although some will go back to the traditional channels, not all, and so therefore the adoption increases. Second part is internally, businesses are recognizing that how powerful some of this technology is, and so therefore there is appetite for more funding, appetite for more acceleration, more appetite to try new things, and that those two things in parallel have been game changers, really.
And I think a lot of these changes have also, brought ease to the whole process. Like, for example, as you said, that, some of these processes will prevail further also. So there's, kind of been an ease of access, which we can see because of AI in financial services, as you said. So, yes, moving on to the next question, Shnay. What do you think is the future of AI in financial services, and what are the changes, we can see moving further ahead?
Sure. So I can talk more specifically from a chatbot perspective. It might be quite interesting, but I think automation across all processes is going to be key, right? So um, I know that has definitely happened, and there's a significant amount of traction there right now, but I think that will only accelerate going forward. And identifying opportunities to automate, identifying opportunities to apply RPA to then end to end remove the need for manual inputs and manual work. I think that's going to be key. I think from a chatbot perspective, so I think the North Star is really actually being able to move from just a simple FAQ bot to a full virtual assistant, right? And so they're using the different data points to be able to personalize those experiences, become proactive, and almost like a personal banker in your pocket, basically, because that is, I think, the North Star. So at the moment, you'll see a lot of chatbots on there just trying to reduce, calls going into those operations, whether that's web chat, whether that's telephony, whether that's branch. Now, that is simple queries that can be answered through FAQs, through a website as well, but it just kind of channels it in. Then you try and move on to, okay, well, the future is texting, really. I mean, it's there now, but banking needs to kind of move into that a little bit. So how can you just text the chatbot to say, can you move money from X to Y for me, please? And it just does it for you. And so it's joining up the dots within the organization to be able to do that, and almost having a chatbot as the glue to bring all these different technology and these different services together. And then what that does is it will almost become a single brain, because all of your customers are being funneled through this one brain, this chatbot, extending out to voice, extending out to WhatsApp, extending out to, IVR. When you call, the brain behind the telephony is the chatbot, and is AI. So, there's a lot of opportunity, and where this can go. But I do almost see, you've got kind of online banking, then you had the mobile apps. I think then that's definitely served its purpose, and we'll still be here for some time. But I think then chatbots and full virtual assistants, and how they integrate within different mediums, i.e. voice, and third party channels such as WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. I think this is really the future from a chatbot perspective.
That's great, Shannon. Before we wind up with the interview, any other sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with?
I think it's just a very exciting time, to be honest. I think that, definitely COVID, albeit it's not been a great situation for, millions of people out there, but it has definitely accelerated digital transformation. And so how we move forward from this, the new normal, the new way of doing things, I think there's a massive amount of opportunity here from an AI perspective, from an automation perspective. And I think it's kind of really helped transform this piece around actually there is little apathy for banking really. You don't people don't like doing it necessarily, and so how does that become a lot more invisible, a lot more intertwined within, okay, well, if you want to buy a car, well, what's the experience that sits behind that and how does that relate to a bank, as opposed to I need to go and get a loan, for example. And it's really that kind of change I see happening. I'd be interested to know how tech companies, i.e. your Googles, your Facebooks, your Apples, really start integrating within this. I know obviously Apple has partnered with Goldman Sachs not long ago in terms of I think it's a credit card. So, I'd be interested to know how they move in this space. And then, I think those are probably some of the main things. Really, it's just a very exciting time and a continuous trend. As I mentioned, the digital revolution is upon us, but I think this is over the last 9 months or so, it's really been accelerated.
Absolutely, and I think that is something we're all waiting for to know what's coming up next, what's coming up new, and how can how transformations are taking place digitally and in which all sectors. So yeah, that's really great, and thank you so much, Shnay, for giving us your time. Your insights were precious, and I know our audience is gonna enjoy this interview.
Thanks, Chandni. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shnay. We'll be back with a new episode and a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned and we'll see you around the next one. Thank you.